Stage 1 is when the grinder begins their journey in GTA Online. They don't know it just yet, but little do they know, they will eventually become an absolute grinding master with incredible wealth in their possession. Before they get there, however, they are total noobs. The grinder loads into GTA Online, and they're met with an ocean of possibilities before them. They'll watch as high-level players drive past in amazing supercars, and fly around on flying bikes overhead. They'll drive past beautiful-looking apartments and properties with glee. Their little grinder eyes light up with sheer excitement. They will one day own all these amazing items and more. There's just one problem though. How the hell do you earn enough money to buy all of this stuff exactly? Stage 2 begins with the grinder's desire to begin earning money, despite having no idea on how to do it effectively. Despite their lack of knowledge, their excitement carries them onwards. They might begin stealing cars off the street and selling them at Los Santos Customs, or begin holding up a convenience store for a few $1,000s at a time. Despite them having tons of fun doing this, they realise that the little amount of money they earn from all these activities will not allow them to buy a supercar within an average human lifespan. The grinder might begin to grow impatient, and this is where a lot of grinders might give up completely and turn to darker methods to earn money, which throughout the entire grinder's lifetime will linger over them like a dark cloud, tempting them away from the grinding path. However, those that are dedicated to the grind push onwards to the next stage. Stage 3 is where the grinder begins to build a proper plan on how to earn their money. They will likely begin grinding out low-level contact missions for their pitiful payouts. And whilst this feels tedious, their excitement to buy all those amazing supercars they saw earlier on drives them onwards through the grind. They'll have developed a very basic strategy they can rely on to buy the most important necessities, such as a cheap apartment where they can spawn inside and change their clothes. More importantly, however, they've likely stolen the best looking car they can find off the street and fully dripped it out at Los Santos Customs. Wow, what a beauty. They've probably also purchased a selection of basic weapons to defend themselves. During this stage, the grinder may notice an infestation of flying insects swarming across the skies of Los Santos, and for some reason, they just won't leave the grinder alone. He may vow to himself on this day, at some point he will destroy these griefers, but for now, there's not much he can do. Right here, the grinder realises that whilst he may have found his feet in Los Santos, he still has a very long way to go. Stage 4 is where the grinder begins to figure out the basic building blocks that form GTA Online and make it work. After realising Brokey Martin Madrazo isn't going to give him a decent wage for his work, the grinder will begin to explore the many different routes players will go down to earn their money. Perhaps he will begin heisting with his crew of idiotic randoms, all equipped with the most colourful clown shoes, failing to even complete the most basic of heists. Perhaps he will even turn down a darker path and begin watching money glitch videos on YouTube and fall down the fake glitch pipeline. I shudder at the thought. The last thing we want is to revive Mr. Boss's channel. Whatever path the grinder chooses to go down, he will begin to earn a decent amount of money for the very first time in his GTA Online career. Here is where the grinder will likely earn his first totally dispensable $1 million to spend on whatever they want, an amount he thought was completely impossible to earn when he first began his journey. Here the grinder will begin to spend his hard-earned money and probably buy his very first nice looking car, then another, then another. Now he's been through his entire stash in a matter of 20 minutes. What a silly little grinder. Stage 5 is where the grinder will begin to invest his money into methods of making even more money. Just like a budding entrepreneur, he will begin focusing all of his effort into maximising his profits with whatever cash he earns. This is where the grinder will begin looking to external guides to teach them faster, more efficient methods of earning money. For example, if they have chosen to sell cargo, they will look to guides on YouTube to teach them methods of min-maxing their time and money to maximise their profits, such as leaving your PS4 on 24/7 so your nightclub refills and you can sell it in the morning when you wake up.
Don't worry about it overheating. I've left my console on for even 4 days. The next gen consoles are meant to stay on for long periods of time.
Wow, what a soothing sound to fall asleep to. If they have chosen heists as their grinding method, they will begin to learn the most efficient ways of combing through the level to complete the heist, and earn their cut in the fastest way possible. They may also begin buying useful vehicles that will help them grind faster, such as the Buzzard, which can be spawned through the interaction menu, or an Oppressor Mark II, which is a quick, nimble flying vehicle that can get them around the map and land anywhere they want. Overall, this stage represents the grinder's transformation from a casual player looking to buy their first supercar to a fully fledged, dedicated and knowledgeable grinder. Stage 6 is where the grinder finally begins putting all he's learned over the weeks or months into practice, and all of his research finally pays off. The grinder begins pumping all of his free time onto GTA Online into his uber efficient grinding method. In a short time, right before the grinder's eyes, their GTA Online bank account begins to swell with immense amounts of cash, to heights the grinder could never have dreamed of when he first began his journey. Whilst there is hard work, and it may feel like an endless slog to sift through sometimes, their planning and research allows the grinder to earn vast amounts of money far quicker than it would have taken without. As their money increases, they might begin to peer over to Legendary Motorsport, a website they never imagined they could browse, and scroll through the page with a new sense of perspective. With the immense price tags once seeming impossible to reach, they will begin to judge these prices by how many Cayo Perico runs they'll need to buy it. They have absolutely every single business operating all at once, whilst the while they spam the most lucrative activities and heists for the maximum profit. Their GTA Online account is a money-making factory, and whenever they log on, by the end of their play session, they're likely to have earned a fortune with ease. Stage 7 is where all the hard work for the grinder pays off. After amassing a fortune the wealthiest countries would be jealous of, the grinder begins buying every item they've ever wanted, literally wasting millions of dollars on items they only wanted just a tiny bit. Because they can, the grinder's bank account at this stage is as vast as a wide open ocean, and the vehicles that once seemed way too expensive to buy may as well be free. Money at this stage becomes entirely irrelevant and will never be a concern for the grinder ever again. They'll buy the most expensive properties and garages and fill them with the most expensive vehicles. They spend their days customizing each and every one, adding the most expensive modifications and upgrades so they can absolutely destroy every single person in any race they play. Here, they will also begin to stock up their garage on some overpowered weaponized vehicles, so they can finally take revenge on the griefers that have harassed them for so very long. They'll probably buy the majority of them, but the grinder will probably take a special liking to the Toreador, or Deluxo especially, for their potent ability to destroy Oppressor Mark IIs with their ultra-accurate missiles. Perhaps even for the most dedicated of grinders, they will begin buying the most expensive, yet completely useless items in the game just to flex on the peasants beneath them. After their spending spree, however, they may begin to feel bored. Despite having access to every piece of content in the game, they might begin to feel a hole beginning to form in their hearts. Their goal to buy the most expensive vehicles has been completed. What are they meant to do now? Well, for the most dedicated grinders, there still are a few challenges left that are able to test their grinding skill. Stage 8 is where the grinder puts all of his grinding knowledge and experience to the ultimate tests the game has to offer. Despite having enough money to buy everything they'd ever need, the grinder still needs to scratch that grinding itch somehow, and there are multiple ways he could go about doing that. For some grinders, it may take the shape of earning a completely ludicrous amount of money as a flex and sign of their total mastery, such as grinding to $1 billion in total. Or they could attempt to complete all of the elite heist challenges with their crew, which is one of the most difficult achievements for GTA Online players to earn. Perhaps for the most daring, most experienced, and arguably most insane grinders, they may even attempt to complete the prison break heist with randoms. The grinder will likely attempt one of these incredible feats, if not all of them together, to truly show to the rest of the GTA Online player base that they are the ultimate grinder. It may take them an incredible amount of time to complete all of these achievements, but eventually they will reach a point in their grinding career where they can look back and truly say they've conquered all the game has to offer. But with that, after literally achieving every goal they've ever created for themselves, and bought absolutely everything the game has to offer, they may begin to question their purpose as a grinder entirely.
Stinky, stinky, stinky.
Stage 9 is where the grinder realises they have nothing new to grind for. They've bought everything they could ever want, so what's the point in grinding further? They already have more money than they'd ever need, so the grinder may begin to feel that his days as a grinder are over. This is where a lot of grinders will either leave the game after completing everything they've ever wanted and move on to a new game where they can start over and scratch their grinding itch once again, or maybe even just move on to another activity within GTA. Either way, for most, this is where the grinder's path comes to an end. However, for some grinders, after logging in every once in a while, they may see a brand new player looking up to them with total reverence as they admire your expensive vehicles, as the grinder once did himself to others not so very long ago. The grinder will begin to feel inspired as the low level rides off in their cheap, poorly customized streetcar with the same excitement they once felt for earning money. And here is where the grinder begins a new stage entirely. Stage 10 marks the total mastery of the grinder playstyle. They can look back at everything they've earned and accomplished with pride, and take joy in having access to every vehicle in the game. The Stage 10 grinder will likely spend their time helping and teaching new players the methods they learned to earn their fortune, and will take pride in seeing their low-level friends rise through their grinding journey. They will take on the role as a wise monk, leading their students to fortune. Whilst the grinder may not have any use for money himself anymore, he will find the same level of joy in helping others that he once received from buying expensive items. Right now, the grinder will feel content with himself and the journey he's been on, whilst he may secretly long for the days of being a low level himself, with an open, unknown world to explore before him. He can take pride in the fact that he can make the experience better for those low levels who now look up to him. They have become the ultimate grinder.